question if you didn't get it right. Prokaryotic bacteria versus eukaryotic cells. So these protein synthesis inhibitors typically have a broad spectrum of activity. Now, the problem is they do have some issues because we do have 70S ribosomes. So some issues associated with these would be the side effects. What's the side effect of chloramphenicol? Anemia. Suppresses bone marrow production. Tetracycline, side effect.
Teeth discoloration.
Right? Children, teeth discoloration. If you already have your permanent teeth, it's not going to discolor them. Streptomycin, if you're on it for long periods of time.
Auditory nerve damage.
Hearing loss, irreversible auditory nerve damage. Erythromycin. Least amount of side effects. So its claim to fame is it was the penicillin alternative. Okay. If you're allergic, now what's the problem with penicillin? Why would people be allergic to it? Where does it come from?
Allergic to
Mold. Because if you're allergic to mold or fungus, the penicillin probably isn't the drug for you. Okay, you'd know, you'd have hives, you'd be itchy when you took it, and then they would use an alternative. The thing about penicillin is a cell wall inhibitor. Penicillin. How well did penicillin work against S. aureus? How big was the zone of inhibition around penicillin compared to every other drug for S. aureus? Staph aureus. The biggest. It works the best. Cell wall inhibitors are typically narrow unless a chemist has extended the spectrum. So because penicillin works so effectively against gram-positive bacteria, specifically staph, they added side chains, chemists, to enable the penicillin to get through that outer lipid layer, and we call it amoxicillin. Now, ampicillin was the first one, but ampicillin doesn't stay active in tissues as long as amoxicillin does, so we don't use ampicillin in this country. I mean, we do intravenously and whatnot, but oral amoxicillin is a better choice, and that's why we use it. Okay? What would happen is if a patient had MRSA, which means he can't take any of the cillins, no penicillin, ampicillin, amoxicillin, augmentin, none of that. So MRSA, they would give vancomycin. They still do. I mean, it's cheap. And it's narrow, okay? Narrow spectrum of activity. Then we also have a topical, that's a tracin. Effective against gram-positive, again, unless the spectrum has been extended. So this is narrow, this is broad. And then we also have augmentin, and augmentin is amoxicillin plus a penicillinase inhibitor. So it's two drugs in one. Obviously, it's broad spectrum. Okay? So, let's continue on. You go to the doctor and you're sick and he's suspecting a bacterial infection, I'm hoping, and that's why he's prescribing you drugs. Why would the doctor prescribe you a broad spectrum drug? Why is that a good idea?
if they don't know what's wrong with you.
Right? What if it's really bad? And then they, septicemia or something, and they need to, okay, let's knock it out completely. Why is it a bad idea just to be handing out antibiotics?
Build resistance.
Because you're killing the normal bacteria. And even if, say, you don't have a sickness at that time, say you have a virus, you still have staph in you, you have strep on you, you just have normal flora. But you also probably have a couple of mutant cells here and there. If you kill the normal stuff, like strep is in people's throats and whatnot, you kill all the normal stuff, and then the strongest ones are left behind, they can actually come back and either give you an infection or give whoever you're kissing an infection. That's even stronger than the original, okay? So again, overusing antibiotics is what led to a lot of the prevalence of resistance traits, okay? So overuse of antibiotics doesn't necessarily cause the mutations, it could, but what it does is it kills all the normal stuff and then it allows the abnormal ones to grow. So Staph aureus used to be, 30% of people, 1 out of 3 people were colonized with aureus. You'd rather be colonized with Staph epi, okay? You don't really want to be colonized with aureus because it's just a pain, it's just an annoying bacteria. But people are 30%. Unfortunately, it used to be really tiny amounts that were colonized with MRSA, methicillin resistant Staph aureus. Now it's like 30%. So the chances of you rubbing up against someone, sitting in the gym, getting that aureus on you, and methicillin resistant aureus is very high. Now, is it going to gain hold on your body? Probably not if you have your own normal flora. But if you're washing with antibacterial soap all over you when you're not supposed to be, like the doctor didn't tell you to, you're just opening up all those spaces for you to be colonized by something really bad. Okay, so that's the thing. Like back in the day, the bacteria weren't the same as they are now, just because there's so much antibiotic prevalence, hanging out. So again, is this a good or bad practice? There's pros and cons of both of these things. Now with surgeries, they'll have you have surgery in a surgical center in the hospital riddled with diseases. They used to pre-dose you for 24 hours with mega doses of antibiotics. I don't care. I'd be like, bring it. I want the mega doses. The problem is that they give you mega doses. Why? You're getting a sterile surgery. Should you need antibiotics prior to surgery unless you have a pre-existing condition? No. It should be sterile. There should be never a situation where you should get an infection from a surgery, ever. Okay? Unless you're getting the surgery out in the desert or something, in a military situation where there's just bodies and bacteria everywhere. If you're getting it done in a surgical center, there should never be infection. Is there? Absolutely. It's unfortunate. Okay, so going back to the chemicals or the pharmaceuticals. Penicillin. So we have the 3 different types that you need to know. We call this natural penicillin because it's still made completely in mold, and then we just extract the penicillin from the mold. So we would consider that natural. Amoxicillin, they extended the spectrum to allow it to get into gram-negative bacteria, so it's semi-synthetic. That's what this means, semi-synthetic. Okay, same thing with augmentin because it is amoxicillin, same. Penicillin, natural penicillin, typically oral, is narrow. So it's only effective against gram-positive. They extended the spectrum, broad, gram-positive, gram-negative. Resist penicillinase. First of all, what is penicillinase?
Enzyme.
It's an enzyme found where?
Bacteria.
In bacteria. Enzymatic destruction of our drug. This is one way that bacteria can resist our medicine. You say, oh, that's weird. Why is it resisting our medicine? Because penicillin came from a fungus. Or it doesn't look like a mushroom. It looks like a furry mold. Okay, but I'm just going to draw it so you know it's a fungus. Okay. And it has all these neighbors, bacteria, because they all decompose stuff together. And the bacteria can overgrow the fungus very easily because it replicates so fast. So the penicillin is like, oh man, you're like in my space. So it secretes a chemical to stop the bacteria from getting too close to it so it has space to do what it needs to do, digest its food and whatever. So the bacteria kind of hover around it and can't survive that zone of inhibition, just like what you were saying. Now there's some random bacteria out there, and I put a star, but it's really not a star, it's really a crappy bacteria, like Gimpy, it's not working well. These guys would totally outcompete this funky bacteria, but penicillin is in the area. So this normal bacteria can't get any closer, but this funky stuff can get really close. And as a matter of fact, it is able to survive in the presence of this chemical because it has that enzyme. Okay, so enzymatic destruction of our drug in the form of penicillinase is one way that we have mutants. And MRSA has penicillinase in it. Okay, our strongest penicillin, which is methicillin, cannot stop MRSA from growing. Okay, as a matter of fact, it'll just kill all its competition, which would compete, and then it would allow this to go crazy and grow like insane. Okay. So resist penicillinase. We have penicillin, amoxicillin, obviously. They cannot resist penicillinase, but when you add a penicillinase inhibitor to the drug, this can also resist penicillinase. Yes. So you say, all right, well, can we give augmentin to a MRSA patient? No, they don't. Because again, you're still going to kill the competition, and you don't even want to go there. You don't want to get anywhere close to any of the penicillins because you just want to use a completely different drug, and that's what they did with vancomycin. Because it was a cell wall inhibitor, they went right to vanco for the MRSA. Unfortunately, because we overused vancomycin, now we have VRE. Vancomycin-resistant enterococcus. That's awesome. And then not only that, if you read through the Staph aureus paper, at least at the beginning and the end, the intro and the conclusion, there was a patient that had VRE hanging out with MRSA, so they actually had a vancomycin plus methicillin-resistant Staph aureus. So that is out there. Again, it's rare, and it's usually in hospital settings, but, Now, is that the end of the world? Oh my gosh, I'm going to die? No, there's other drugs to take, but it just adds one level of annoyance that we can't use our strongest drug that's most effective against this bacteria. Okay? All right, so we talked a little bit about superinfection. So killing normal flora is a bad idea. Killing normal flora or killing normal bacteria is a bad idea because you allow mutants to grow. What's another way that superinfection could occur? So you took an antibiotic, you feel better after 3 days, you're like, oh, I don't need this
You
anymore.
don't finish your medicine.
Stop taking the medicine. So, and you know, everyone does this, right? So I think not everyone, but most. You killed the weakest. Here's the other thing that's the worst thing ever, right? You stop taking the medicine, then what do you do with the rest of it? Put it in the cabinet for another time.
And then you take it again.
And then you take it again when it's probably
When it's less
even
potent.
weaker. So it's like you can't, these are just things that you do and you know, and I know not to do these things. But in my cabinet, I still have them. Now, I went through, after giving one of these lectures a couple years ago, we got rid of all the meds. And I was like, this is crazy. But still, now we have a pack of steroids. I'm like, you know what, just in case, because my husband gets these lung infection things, and I was like, oh, I can't deal with like dying right now. So start the steroid, and then we'll go to the doctor, and he'll be like, yeah, well, Jessica, maybe start taking the steroid. So the doctor has to continue, which they don't like. Trust me, they don't like the self-medicating. But the point is, we do this, and that's what's leading to these super infections. It's really a pain in the neck. Okay. All right. What else about the resistance? What other ways can bacteria resist our drugs? So we talked about gram-negative and acid-fast being hard to, kill because they have these wax or they're like extra lipid layer. So how can bacteria resist us? Just by the nature of their cell wall.
Prevention of the penetration.
They can prevent penetration of the drug. This is how bacteria resist our drugs. Mycobacteria. They can be on it for like 6 to 9 months. The drugs. Kill this stuff. Another way that you can resist our drugs. So think about this. You have penicillin. It doesn't allow proper formation of cell wall. Bacteria, it has its cell wall already done, ready to go, and it's making you feel sick. So you have strep throat, and your throat's all infected, and you feel like crap, and it's terrible. You take penicillin, you're like, okay, why isn't it working? Like 4 hours, then 8 hours, then 12 hours, and oh my gosh, I still feel terrible. You have to wait for the bacteria to divide into 2 daughter cells. And then that drug doesn't allow proper formation of peptidoglycan, and you have a funky wall. The cells fall apart and die. It feels so much better after 24 hours, right? So, bacterial mechanism of drug resistance. If the bacteria rapidly ejects the drug with these multi-drug resistant pumps that they have inside of them, it doesn't have time to do this. If it pumps out the penicillin, you're not going to be able to kill the daughters. Okay, so we know this. They have these multi-drug resistant pumps. What's another way bacteria resist our drugs? Which brings us to folic acid synthesis. So folic acid synthesis inhibitor, sulfamides, they're the designer drugs. Sulfanilamide, sulfonamide, sulfotrioxane, there's all kinds of sulfamides. SXT is what you guys are using. They're inhibiting folic acid synthesis. So we have folic acid at the end. And here's an enzyme involved. And the thing about enzymes is that they have an active site. That's a specific 3D shape. And it's cool because we can design drugs to fit into the active site. So right here, this is our drug. Fits into the active site and the enzyme stops working and no more folic acid. Now why would we pick folic acid synthesis pathway? Do we have this pathway inside of us? No. How do we know that?
We don't make folic acid.
We don't make folic acid. You have to take it when you're pregnant. You have to take it or your baby will have normal tooth defects. Unless you're eating a lot of leafy greens. So now they just cut out the middleman and give you the folic acid. Right? So, scientists decided was, okay, we're going to pick out this pathway that's not in us, one enzyme in one pathway. The more specific the drug target, the more likely mutation will render the drug inactive. Why? Well, because when the target's a 70S ribosome and it's fitting into there, if that 70S ribosome in the bacteria is mutated enough to stop our drug from working, that bacteria is not surviving very well. It is not making proteins. It just stinks at life. Okay, so this is a great target for lesser